Hello everyone, welcome once again to another Lutys chainsaw mods. I just thought I'd do one today on the expansion chamber, the short expansion chamber that I make, just to show you a few things. Just a moment, just get this blinking speaker on, that's it. Yeah, just show you a few things on this expansion chamber. This is the this is the one I'm talking about. So it's okay, this expansion chamber on the saw that's pushes now 10 horsepower, and obviously two of that horsepower is due to this expansion chamber, which I proved out on my dyno. There's quite a few people that have asked me stuff about this expansion chamber, and I thought I'd just go into showing a little bit about it, how I make it, the principle of it, how it works, etc. I'm just trying to think whether or not you're in the wrong position there, really, but I'm not sure whether you are. You might be better off in here, over here. Maybe put you over here, perhaps. Let's see. Come on, follow me. It's one of those. It's a gimbal that I've got, and it's, to be honest with you, it's a bit clunky at the moment. I don't think I'm that good at using it really, but let's see what it does now. It's following me. It's not a bad position there, actually. I think it just needs you to be a little bit closer, and maybe a little bit further down, perhaps. You can sort of see that by the looks. Get the angle down a little. That's better, I think, isn't it? Yeah, so I want to talk about how it works. A lot of people have asked about the cones I used for them, and the size of them and what have you. And to be honest with you, the size of the cone doesn't really, it's a lot of this is experimental. At the end of the day, I mean, I know how an expansion chamber works, as a lot of people do. But some people can't really. They think it's a bit of a gimmick that I've got here, but it isn't. I mean, I didn't know myself. I've been producing pipes for quite a few years now, short pipes. I know proper expansion chambers are great, but they're too big and cumbersome. But I have been producing these pipes now for quite a while, and I've learned quite a bit about them. And I just want to show you my theory, if you like. So the expansion chamber has got it's got a diffuser cone coming out of the from the exhaust port. Okay, so wait a minute, I might even have a drawing, which I've had the drawing out before. So I've had this out before. I've done this before. You know, it's just it's easier to show you on here, really. So you've got this end, here, obviously fuel air mix. I'm not going to go into the engine's workings and what have you. So it's fired. Exhaust gases are coming out under high pressure because the exhaust opens while it's still under power with a two-stroke. Now here, look, there's a reverse cone here. This is the diffuser, okay? So the idea of that is that the exhaust gases can get through, coming through a cone shape, coming out of a cone shape, like a trumpet or whatever. They can expel really quickly and expand really quickly into the chamber. So that it does increase, the cone does increase speed that the the exhaust gases come out. But not only that, because you've got a bang, so you've got a sound, you've got a cone here. So that accentuates the sound, or sonic wave, if you want to call it that. So it makes it louder, in other words. So it will give you a stronger pulse. That's what the diffuser cone does, really. So you've got a really loud bang, which goes, it's slightly behind the exhaust gases coming out, and it pushes its way through and hits the cone the other side. This is another cone, okay? That then acts like a speaker. So when you see your speakers are pulsing, that's what they're doing. It's accentuating and moving sound waves. That's how they work. And this is the same idea, really. So this cone will rebound the sound waves back down into the exhaust, and eventually into the exhaust port, stopping your excess fuel air mix spewing out. And the way I've done mine is I've always developed saws that are free flowing, if you like. So you know, I start at the one end, starting at the end, a ram stack, which is basically a trumpet. So as the air travels through into the carburetor, it gets shrunk down to the size of the carburetor. So now it's under pressure and going through your carb, your intake manifold, which you make your intake manifold as big as you can to suit the carburetor that you've got. And it's pushing through into the crankcase, up into the transfers to the cylinder top. And then she fires and expels the exhaust gases out quickly. So I've always designed them to start with standard pipes. And as I said, I'd made one that revved to 18,500 RPM. One of these, you know, as you could do it with any saw, like, really, but and it ruined all the bearings because it was revving so hard. I'll pull you down just a touch. It was revving so hard, it was pushing 18,500 grand, which is yeah, it's pretty massive, really. So once I got a saw that was pushing out that kind of speed, yeah, okay, it cut okay, but it was chewing chains up because it was trying to cut at a really high speed. I think it was, I don't know, 16,000 RPM it was cutting at. And although the motors only, well, they're rated at 58 cc, but they're not. They're probably more like 54, 55 cc. But because the speed was there in softwood, as you've probably seen on some of my videos, you know, I've raced me MS362 here against these Chinese, and they've cut it in half the time easily compared to the MS362. But the torque isn't really there. That doesn't really increase the torque by making it flow really well. But also, you know, it ends up taking out your bearings, etc. So I kind of went away from just speed and decided I was going to go to try and see if I can harness some of the technology of a expansion chamber, which I did it unsuccessfully a couple of times. I think the first one I made, what I'd done, I got this is a cone. I'll just knock this up actually. So this is the start of my sonic cone, okay? So you want some very thin steel. This is galvanized steel. You can still weld galvanized steel. You need to wear a mask, but you can still weld it. So I like to use thin steel, as thin as I can. That way it vibrates a lot better. You know, you can get I think a better pulse out of it because it vibrates better. So I like to use thin ones. I think they work. I mean, I can't prove that, but at the end of the day, because it acts like a speaker and it has to vibrate, surely a thinner one is going to vibrate much better. So, you know, I do make them out of thin material. So I've knocked this one up. All I've done is cut a circle out, and I do it. So on this saw, you need to fit it in between the exhaust studs. This bloody camera's moving. You need to fit it in between the exhaust studs on this saw. There. So you can see where the cone is on this one, in between the exhaust studs, okay, the muffler studs. So this cone, I can make it whatever size I want. You know, I can cut more off it, grind some off it, or whatever. But that's the start of a cone, okay? So I just cut a circle out, cut a slot in it, started to round it off. The next stage is going to be welding up that slot and then carry on working it by hand, okay, with various tools. That's what I'll be doing. So they're easy to make. Now, yeah, the first one I'd made, what I did was basically I got a standard muffler. There's one over here. And this is going to work. This should work on any muffler, you know, any muffler at all, to be fair. So I've got a standard muffler, and I cut a hole in the front. I cut it open first, cut a hole in the front, and I put my cone where the rebound is going to go straight back into the exhaust port. Okay, that's how I do them. You know, it's gonna come straight out of there. So your cone's on the front, exhaust port there, so it's in line with the exhaust port. It's gutted inside. You know, this one isn't, but you've got it inside. I did a video building the one on this saw now, but I don't know, a lot of people have asked me about, you know, how it works and what have you. So this is kind of on the back of that. So you you've got your cone. You can call it a speaker cone. I call them a sonic cone. You know, you call them what you want, like, really. But it goes on the front, okay? Now, it's going to be cut down and machined to fit in between the studs, okay? But that is a decent size shaped cone for these. So you've gutted it. You've got your cone on the end. You get rid of your outlets, okay? Plate them over or whatever. So now, if you only did that and maybe left one of your outlets or something, I did experiment early on, and the sonic cone just held back the RPMs. And that's because the two pipes on these, so the first one I did, I put that on like that, basically, left the openings up here, gutted the inside out. And what it did, it really held back the RPMs massively. But it did feel torquey. It was hard to stall in wood. But I think it only revved to about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. You know, you could really feel it holding it back. So I knew the cone would work, you see. Okay, so I was getting huge torque out of it, but no RPMs. So that's basically how the cone works. It echoes sound waves back down into the exhaust port, okay? Now, if you can understand that, you know, you've ported your saw, you put a big carburetor on it, put a big carb on it, you ported it, and you've, let's get you a bit closer actually. So you've worked on it really well. Still not right, is it? And you've you've got loads of speed out your saw. That's the thing, okay? So you want to get loads and loads of speed out your saw, really, ultimately, if you're going to make your saw have a sonic cone short expansion chamber. You've got to do that, because the idea is you're gonna try, you want the saw to be spewing out loads of fuel air mix. So it's got more fuel air mix going through that cylinder than it can cope with. So instead of it burning it and holding it in, it's spitting it out. And this is why you get wet on your exhaust. If you've got a good flowing chainsaw and a good flowing muffler, the whole lot, right the way through, from your air filter all the way through, if you've got that, then you should get a wet exhaust, okay? And very wet, not just a little bit moist, like this one is just slightly moist, okay? Now, if you can get that to happen, and I'm not just talking about winding open the fuel or anything, I'm on about getting it running correctly, where she's nice and snappy on the throttle, because you've done a good porting job, you've raised the compression, etc. Big carburetor on a big intake manifold. If you do that and your ram stack on the end, that then would be a saw that would be excellent to have a short expansion chamber on. It might work on a standard saw, but you might not get much of an increase, okay? You'll probably increase the torque a little bit, maybe, but you're not going to get a huge increase. It's better if you've got your saw really, really open. Once you've got it like that, then it is spewing out fuel air mix, lots of it. So And then you can start building your short expansion chamber. That's ideal then, if you can do that. Okay. So you've got your cone on the end. Okay. You've got your cone on the end. So now that is going to echo fuel air mix back in. But because these outlets, the two outlets, are not extending into the chamber very far, the fuel air mix, instead of the fuel air mix coming out, you've got the cone here. So bang, it goes out. Your cone, bang, sends a sonic wave back to that. It crams a whole lot back in, or tries to, all of it. It resists it, okay? Because it's got nowhere to go. It can't get past that cone to go up and out through those outlets, because the sonic wave, because it's only going to be 50, 60 mil away from the exhaust port, instead of having a sonic wave like on an expansion chamber, you've got a sonic wave this end and a big chamber in between. So it's got time for the fuel air mix to come out into that chamber and empty the cylinder before that sonic wave hits back again. So most of it's come out, then the sonic wave would hit, right, and push back that fuel air mix at the back end of your exhaust gases. But with a short expansion chamber, you can't do that because it's so short. It's so short, and that's why it held the first one back massively, because the sonic wave is continuously pulsing more, so you're almost getting a continuous wave of pressure. Basically, at that distance, you probably would get a continuous wave of pressure. So hardly any of the exhaust gases, probably half of them, whatever, like, would come out. A portion of them would come out, but not enough to allow it to rev up much more. And that's why I said it held it back to 4,000 RPM. So if you've got that far, right, where you've got your cone on the end there, and you run it, you tried it, oh yeah, it's really holding it back, experiment with it, do it like I did if you want to, like, but trust me, it does hold it back. Okay. So the cone, the cone's working. Okay. You know where to fit it. It's right in front of your exhaust port. Fit it on and what have you. So now you've got to think about, how can I get the exhaust gases out before the cone echoes them back down through the exhaust port? Which, that's how I thought. How can I do this? And I tried putting an extra port on. I tried all sorts of things. Then it occurred to me. So I've got some bits of pipe here, that's all. It's just showing you different things. Then it occurred to me what I needed to do. Okay. So the cone here at the front, not far away from the exhaust port. Okay, it's only 50, 60 mil away from the exhaust port. Okay, that cone. How can I do that? How can I get it out? So what I did, now these sizes are not applicable, I'm just explaining something. Okay, so what I did, I got some tube on this one, actually got some tube, and instead of drilling through the cone, which I wrongly did on the first one I did, because what that did, it ruined the pulse from the cone by having it going through the cone. It ruined it. I mean, it made it flow all right, but I was losing so much pressure from the sonic cone because I'd spoiled the cone by putting a pipe through the middle. That's how I did one of them. And that really, it's free flowing, but it doesn't have a great amount of torque increase, tiny bit of torque increase, but not much. Okay, because obviously part of the cone was still working. But it's better if you can keep a neat cone on it like this, complete cone over the exhaust. Okay, so how are you going to get it past that cone? So I started producing what I'd call Freeway tubes. So what I'd do, instead of having the cone just on its own, I would get a pipe and I would stick it somewhere in the silencer, and I pushed it in so that it's about, I don't know, 20 mil maybe away from the exhaust port. Okay, like that. And that's how this one is, basically. So this one has got it coming out from this side. Okay, at the side of the cone there, that's where it starts to come out, and it comes up here, through here, and then out. So you get a Freeway tube, you slide it in from the side somewhere, or the top, or the bottom, or the other side. You slide it in, and you get it relatively close to the exhaust port. Okay, that will then create a Freeway flowing area where the cone cannot disturb it, because this pipe is, so imagine your exhaust, that's your exhaust port, right? Okay, so you've got your pipe going through your cone, but then I would fit it sort of like that to cover part of the exhaust port. 1/3 is what I use. I cover it by about 1/3. And if you slot this pipe, cut a slot in it so it's at an angle, you'll get the best out of you get the best area. So you get your pipe, and it wouldn't even necessarily have to be the side. I mean, this one has two. It's got two pipes running alongside each other, and they're actually these two pipes here that come out, they're about 20 mil long each, 30 mil maybe, 30 mil they could be. And I've got them welded side by side, covering or close to a portion of the exhaust port. Okay, sort of like that. So that means that obviously if this pipe is over a portion of that port, right, 1/3, then the cone can only act against 2/3 of the exhaust port. And that seems to be the right ratio for this one. I luckily hit on it the first time with this. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it adds 2 horsepower to this saw. So it's not far off. I mean, you could experiment, you know, cover less of your port with your Freeway tubes. Cover it to 1/4 or something. I don't know, like, you know, experiment, or more, whichever. Obviously, the more you do it, then the more speed you're going to get out of it, but the less potential torque you'll get out of it. That's what you've got to think about. If you cover more of it, you're going to get more speed out of it because it's more free flowing. So you cover less of it, you're going to get a bit more torque. So that's basically, when I talk about Freeway tubes and what have you, that's basically what they do. You know, it's a free way to get your exhaust gases out so that the sonic wave doesn't block it. You know, you could try different sizes. This one has got 2 13 mil pipes, which is more or less like this. It's got 2 short 13 mil pipes, which are just in front of the, so they're in front of the exhaust port by, you see, that much. If this is the port, say, about that much, and it covers they cover 1/3 of the exhaust port inside the chain, inside the muffler. That's the ratio you need, I think, anyway. That's what I use, 1/3. Now, I'll tell you something else in a minute, but what I did with this, you see the shape of it? It's like, it's got quite a large hole here. So the two Freeway tubes feed this large hole. There's a gap between this section of the pipe and the Freeway tubes, a little gap, about 10 mm. That keeps the sound down, so it allows it to expand inside the chamber, keeps the sound down a little bit. You could just join them up to this if you wanted to and see how that works. I don't know, I might do that on another one. But this actual one has a gap between the Freeway tubes and this section of the pipe. It has a 10 mm gap. But then the Freeway tubes, they'll feed here into here, and then they will come up here. And if you look, it's got quite a large section of pipe here, and then it drops down to a small 13 mm at the end, a stinger. Okay, so what I've done is I just used some fat tube like this stuff, and cut it all up, made the large section, and then step it down with some other tube like that, weld it all up. I've got a bit of a taper here going on, and then it comes out through a 13 mm stinger inside diameter. And this one does give this saw 2 horsepower extra. Okay, so the next one I build, which is, see, I was going to build one for this. This is the 10 horsepower one with this pipe on, but I used to have this pipe on one that pushed 8 horsepower with this pipe on. Okay, but I wanted this just to try it out, really, so I used the pipe on this one. So what I'm going to do is make another pipe for the 8 horsepower one, and see if I can get it to go a little bit better. I can dyno test it and see what the difference is between this pipe and the next one that I build. Because there's one other thing I want to do, right? Want to try. So like I said before, so there's a diffuser cone here. Now there's no diffuser cone. It's just an open port into the muffler, up through the Freeway tubes, out through here, and then out. Okay, so what I'm thinking of doing is putting a diffuser cone on just inside here. Okay, so it's attached to the exhaust port, if you like that. So when I bolt this on, it's going to have there's going to be a short diffuser cone protruding out from the exhaust port, if you like that. Or more like that, actually, but it'll obviously have a hole in it. I'll make another one of these, or something like it, with a hole in it for the exhaust port, and I'm going to, when I cut it open, drop this in that way, and then weld it to the back. So that I should have a diffuser cone with the gases coming out, and then I'll have another sonic cone this end, firing it back. And I think with a diffuser cone, I think it's gonna, so if I got my sonic cone this end and the diffuser cone here where my exhaust port is, I think as it fires the sonic cone, fires the sound wave back, it's going to capture it easier inside this. So I'll have my Freeway tube going in from the side, sort of thing, like that, to mask a portion of it. But the cone itself, I think, will capture the sonic wave a bit better. It might make what I'm hoping is it's going to make the pulse a bit stronger. It might not, I don't know. But also, as I said before, the diffuser cone, because it's trumpet shaped, it's going to give a louder bang, louder sound wave. Theoretically, that should make it stronger. That's then going to hit the sonic cone, and fire a louder sound wave back. So it might improve the sonic wave, the power and strength of the sonic wave. I don't know if it will, but that's going to be my next one. And I'm just going to see what it does. The diffuser cone, you know, see if it actually does improve it. And now, because I've got this pipe, you see, I can run it on my dyno with this pipe, giving it 10 horsepower. And then I'll try the other pipe on and see what that's like. I had an issue with this. This one and my other fast saw, actually, down in the woods. Cut out, well, wouldn't restart from hot till it was stone cold, and then it was okay. And what I've done, and I think it's because they're both souped up saws, which are, you know, they produce much more power than they used to, and therefore you get more heat, more power, more heat. I'll see if I can show you. And what I thought it was, if you look inside there, can you see that like aluminium plate there? This is what I've tried to do to get around it. I've put an aluminium plate between the muffler and the cylinder. It goes right across it, covers right up into the roof. So I think it's going to deflect some of the heat away from the cylinder. I think it was overheating it, you know. I think that's what happened. It just overheated it. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes, eh? And but you know, it'd be nice for a few people to sort of try these sonic cone pipes, mufflers. Give us a bit back, you know, say what you've done and what you found, you know, because at the end of the day, it's a learning curve for everybody, really. So I hope you've enjoyed this from Lutys Chainsaw Mods. You know, the sonic cone. As always, message me, ask a few questions, and I'll always try to answer them. So thank you once again for watching, and bye for now.